Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Ethos Trek and my name is Sera. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and probably yours too if you've been paying attention to the news. It's about the tension between two fundamental American principles, free speech and the separation of church and state. Specifically, what happens when Christian nationalism tries to use the language of religious freedom to reshape our democracy. Now, I know that sounds heavy, but stick with me, because this isn't just about abstract principles. It's about real decisions being made right now that affect how we all live, regardless of what we believe or don't believe. First, let's get clear on what we're actually talking about, because words matter, and these terms get thrown around a lot. Free speech is pretty straightforward. It's our First Amendment right to express ourselves without government censorship, to criticize power, to share ideas, to say things others might disagree with. It's the bedrock of democracy. Now, Christian nationalism, that's different from just being Christian or being politically conservative. Christian nationalism is the belief that America is fundamentally a Christian nation, and that our laws and government should reflect specifically Christian values and identity. It conflates American and Christian identity into one thing. And here's where it gets tricky. Christian nationalists often frame their agenda as a free speech or religious freedom issue. They say things like, "We're just protecting our right to express our faith," or "You're silencing Christian voices." But here's the thing, and this is crucial. There is a massive difference between the freedom to practice your religion and speak about your beliefs, and using government power to impose those beliefs on everyone else. One is a right, the other is theocracy. So, let's talk about what this actually looks like in practice. Think about what's happening in public schools right now. In several states, there are efforts to mandate displays of the Ten Commandments in public school classrooms. Supporters frame this as free speech. Just displaying historical documents, they say. But imagine you're a Muslim student, or Hindu, or atheist, walking into that classroom every day. The government, through that public school, is literally telling you that one religion's rules should be on your wall. That's not free speech. That is state endorsement of religion, which the Constitution explicitly prohibits. Or consider book bans. Yes, book bans. We've seen a massive surge in efforts to remove books from libraries and schools. Books about LGBTQ+ experiences, books about racism, books about different religious traditions. Often, these challenges come from Christian nationalist groups claiming these books violate their values. But here's the irony. They're using the language of parental rights and protecting children to actually limit speech, to remove diverse voices and perspectives from the public square. They want their speech protected while eliminating speech they disagree with. And then there's the push for religious exemptions to anti-discrimination laws. Business owners are saying they shouldn't have to serve LGBTQ plus customers because of their Christian beliefs. Again, framed as religious freedom. But your right to practice your religion doesn't include the right to discriminate against others in the public marketplace. We learned this during the Civil Rights Movement. You can't refuse to serve someone because of who they are. Now here's where this gets really interesting, and where we have to be careful as liberals who genuinely care about free speech. Christian nationalists do have free speech rights. They can absolutely advocate for their worldview, express their religious beliefs, and try to persuade others. That's protected speech, and it should be. But there's a paradox at the heart of their argument. They claim to be defending freedom while simultaneously working to create a system where one religious perspective dominates, where laws enforce their theological views on everyone. True free speech requires pluralism. It requires a public square where people of all faiths and no faith can participate equally, where the government doesn't pick winners and losers in the marketplace of ideas. When you use government power to privilege Christianity through school prayer mandates, religious displays in government buildings, or laws based explicitly on biblical interpretation, you're not expanding freedom. You're limiting it for everyone who doesn't share that faith. And that's the fundamental conflict. Free speech thrives in a secular democracy, one where government remains neutral on religion. Christian nationalism seeks to end that neutrality. It wants a government that reflects one specific religion's tradition. You can't have both. So why am I talking about this today? Because this isn't theoretical anymore. We're seeing Christian nationalist ideology influence everything from state legislatures to school boards to the federal courts. We're seeing the erosion of the separation between church and state in real time. And it's being packaged in the language of freedom. Religious freedom, free speech, parental rights, which makes it confusing. It sounds like they're defending liberty, but look at the outcome. Look who loses rights and whose voices get silenced. LGBTQ plus people lose the right to marry or adopt in some proposals. Women lose bodily autonomy when abortion laws are based on religious doctrine rather than medical science. Students lose access to diverse books and perspectives. Non-Christian families feel excluded from their own public institutions. This isn't about protecting anyone's freedom. It's about imposing one group's religious vision on everyone else. And as people who care about actual freedom, the messy, pluralistic, big tent version where we all get to participate, we need to be clear about what's at stake. Look, I'm not saying people of faith shouldn't be involved in politics. Of course they should. Faith motivates a lot of people toward justice and compassion. That's beautiful. But there's a difference between bringing your values to the public square and demanding that the public square reflect only your values. Free speech means protecting everyone's voice, including the voices that challenge the majority, that represent minority faiths or no faith, that push us to grow and change. Christian nationalism, despite its rhetoric, works against that principle. It seeks to narrow the conversation, not expand it. So next time you hear someone frame Christian nationalist policies as religious freedom or free speech, ask yourself, whose freedom, whose speech, and who gets silenced in the process? Let's keep this conversation going. Leave a comment, and as always, like, subscribe, share. It goes a long way to getting this channel heard by more people so we can keep the conversation going. Thank you for listening. My name is Sera, and this is Ethos Trek, and I'll be back in a few days.